Hey, welcome back to CKLA Chats. I am DLC Sarah Foster Yankee, fourth and fifth grade coach, and joining me is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Ashley Harris. Oh my gosh, Ashley Giles. Okay, and I'm also a grade 4 or 5 district literacy coach. Welcome.
All right, so today we are in fourth grade, Unit 6, Contemporary Fiction, and we're going to be chatting about Lesson 10, New Characters and Aspiration, in Vignette 7 of The House on Mango Streets.
All right. So the purpose. First, the core text. They will vignette 7, like we mentioned before, titled "The Three Sisters." The purpose, the students will analyze how the theme of aspiration is developed in Vignette 7 by looking at dialogue, making inferences about new characters, and explaining imagery. Students are going to create a new secondary character that plays a significant role in their own stories and aspirations because they've been creating these stories over the course of these lessons. And so we are going to start off with reading for this lesson. And the learning objective is the students will know Esperanza's aspirations. They will understand that the author's use of imagery, dialogue, and new characters to develop the theme of aspirations. And finally, students will be able to make inferences about the development of the aspiration theme, supported by evidence from the text using the writer's journal. Many activity pages or assessments will be used in this particular the reading portion. So the first component within the reading component starts off with basically we're just going to be reading it, right? We're reading the Three Sisters. This is going to be whole group, 15 minutes. Um, the teacher is going to just inform them because that this is a new vignette. A lot of times or a couple of times they've reread vignettes, so we're not going back, rereading anything. This is a new vignette that they're going to be reading, and that it states in our teacher's guide that this is a more subtle, mystical than other vignettes so far. So they really need to use all their close reading skills that they have been building upon during this unit to really read closely to gain this deeper understanding of what's really going on. So the teacher is going to start off by reading the first paragraph aloud, just to kind of get everybody on the same page so that you should see the teacher reading the first paragraph. And after she reads the first paragraph, there is a check for understanding. Then after the teacher reads the first paragraph, then students are going to read the rest of the text in its entirety independently. And a check for understanding that will ensure, let the teacher know, did they get the gist? Did they even understand, what was being read because they are reading this alone? The teacher can pose the question, where is Esperanza and why? So posing that question is going to really let the teacher know, did the kids, understand that reading? And so just FYI, the reading Esperanza is at a funeral. And it's the baby sister of those three sisters. Think a couple lessons of previous with the Rachel
I think Our Good Day.
Lucy, right?
Yeah.
A good day. Yes, it comes from a good day. And so the baby sister passes, and so Esperanza's at that funeral. And so as they're reading, there are, of course, we have our comprehension questions that are there for students to ensure that comprehension and understanding of that text. We go from literal to evaluative to inferential. Um, and so basically, that will conclude our first component of just the reading of this new vignette. And then that takes us to reading and dialogue. Um, Make sure I didn't forget anything. Nope. Um, so now we're going to go back to dialogue. If you notice, this is a spiral. And so the teacher should explain to students that within this vignette, many characters are speaking. And hopefully students have noticed, which they should notice, that within these vignettes there are no quotation marks. And so the teacher needs to really be explicit about that, that students should be really reading closely to determine who's speaking, because that can really confuse you, about the content of what is being said within the text if you don't know who's speaking. So make sure that you should see teachers saying, there are no quotation marks, but you have to read closely so you can identify who's speaking and where that dialogue goes. And so from there, you're going to direct students to activity page 10.1. And if we can go on to activity page 10.1 really quick, Sarah. So 10.1, if you notice, it shows you an excerpt, the first one, excerpt of the reading from the vignette. And so students are to write where that dialogue, find each piece of dialogue and write it to the left column on the table. So anyway, so here they're going to use this dialogue here, and they're going to write each piece of dialogue. So each time somebody speaks, they're going to transfer that text to this chart on 10.1, the column that says dialogue. So this is students identifying the dialogue, although the quotation marks are not there. So they have to determine where's the dialogue, where are they talking, and take that dialogue and insert it into this chart under the column that says dialogue. And so after they do that, then they have to figure out, well, who's saying it? Okay, so it says direct students to find each piece of dialogue and write it to the left-hand corner on the table. And then it says on the right hand, you're going to name which sister speaks each piece of dialogue. Sometimes it may be all of them speaking. So this is really intentional on, do students understand dialogue? It may be helpful, of course, to model the first one with so hopefully you're seeing teachers model this, because this is intense work. Where's the dialogue? To me, you can just tell, do students understand the whole purpose of dialogue with this lesson right here? And then it says, look at the rest of the excerpt. So then they're going to actually go inside the excerpt, and they have to determine who's saying what. Is it the sister saying it or Esperanza? Next to each line, write whether it's Esperanza or the sisters who's saying or doing something. And so they have to determine who's speaking the dialogue, or who's acting it out. Is it the sisters or the dialogue? So they would use S for sisters, and they would do E for dialogue. So for example, because remember they're at a funeral, so somebody says she's special. And so on this page where there's no quotation marks, well, who said that? Was that Esperanza or was that the sisters? And next to that line, they would put an S for sisters, who the sisters said that. That would be an example that the teacher could do with the students, determining who says what. And other than that, and after that, so there's like a trifold, right, to this assignment. Then students are to perform the dialogue. So they've labeled it. First, they've identified it, that it as dialogue, and they put who wrote it, who said it. But now you're going to have some volunteers, ask 4 volunteers. You can see 4 students get up. So this page here is where you're going to put who says what. Was it the sisters or was it Esperanza? And you just put an S or an E next to those boxes. After they do this, then the teacher's going to ask for 4 volunteers to stand up and read this scene all over again. So assign each student a role. So you have the 3 sisters, and you have Esperanza. They will only read the descriptive text, okay? So ask the class to read along and ensure that the right person is reading for their role. So basically, they're going to be assigned roles, and then they're going to read based off the role that you choose, the teacher chooses, or that the student chooses. And the onlookers, if the students happen to mess up, like saying the wrong parts, hopefully the students in the class are able to raise their hand and say, oh, they're speaking the wrong part, or they're reading the dialogue, or this character didn't say that. If she's playing Esperanza, well, Esperanza didn't say that. If they're making mistakes. I mean, I hope that was clear. If there's a confusion about who's reading, pause. The teacher should pause and ask the class to decipher who should be speaking. So basically, the audience is looking to make sure the person who should be speaking is speaking. And so that's another way for them, they're acting out this particular scene. And this also helps them with the dialogue. Okay. And then that'll conclude that section of the component of the reading. And this will take us to our last component, which is Esperanza's aspirations. And so for this particular component, you're going to direct them to activity page 10.2, and they're going to answer these questions on 10.2. Here, they're going to be making a lot of inferences. Look, if you notice, they're open-ended, of course, as always. And it's going to help them organize their thought as they're making their inferences. So this page here is going to help them organize their thoughts based off the reading. And so they're inferential questions, they're literal questions, and evaluative questions that they are going to have to answer based off that vignette. Let me get my notes. And then after they answer these questions independently, then the teacher is going to come back and she's going to discuss these questions as a class. Then, after they answer these questions and discuss them, the teacher is going to refer students back to activity page 2.3. And we did not put that on here.
No, I don't think so. No.
And this is where they are. Remember when we were graphing, right? They were graphing, like, I think it was like the mood or how she felt about her house. Remember, was it negative or positive? And so basically we're going to graph again based off this vignette. And also it says, note, you are looking at Esperanza's words and not her mother. So make sure it's all about Esperanza that they are graphing on this particular, when they graph this section. Then there are more, teachers should be posing more comprehension questions based off this vignette. And then on the board, the teacher is going to draw a circle. Now we're talking about her aspirations and what does all the circle of life, I called it, to Esperanza. What does it all mean? So on the board, you should see on chart paper, anchor chart, or on the whiteboard, the teacher is going to draw a circle. And this comes from, the reading. And explain that the circle has a meaningful image. And so after the teacher draws that circle, students need to know, what does this circle mean for Esperanza? The students are going to get together in pairs. They're going to discuss why this circle is an important message in this particular vignette. Allow some time for the students to converse, figure out why is this circle important. Some answers you may hear is that circles have no beginning or no end. You can start in a circle anywhere. Esperanza wants to escape and she has thoughts about leaving, which would be better in her eyes. But the idea of the circle could be that she could never leave because she'll always come from, and who she has become is because of the house on Mango Street where she was. So hopefully students are saying these things about this circle. And this all ties back into the theme. Everything around her contributes to who she is and who she wants to be. It also has a check for understanding on here that you can poll your class if they agree with this whole meaning of the circle. What does it mean to their life? And do they agree with it based off the readings about Esperanza? I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sarah. That was a lot.
Just, I know for sure that the idea of the circle comes up again in lesson 11. So yeah, they're making a point here. So,
yeah, it's the starting of it, right?
Yeah, it's the starting of a good deep discussion.
Yes, and so that'll conclude the reading portion.
All right, let's talk about writing. So our cub is students will know the physical characteristics, action, and dialogue of their secondary character that they will be creating. They'll understand the influence secondary characters have on the aspirations of their central character, and they'll be able to create a new secondary character that plays a significant role in their own stories of aspiration using the writer's journal. So let me go to my next. Oh, yep, just one little component for writing. They're going to be planning new aspiration stories independently for 15 minutes. So to begin, the students are going to review the feedback that the teacher gave them from, I think it was Writer's Journal 5.5. They're going to be going over that quietly, just looking at the feedback that they've received. The teacher's going to explain that they will create a new chapter in their stories and a new secondary character who says or does something that makes their character reconsider his or her aspirations. So just like the three sisters have done for Esperanza in the vignette that they read in this lesson, the secondary character that they're creating is going to have the same effects on their central character. So they're going to have the writing time in this lesson to plan out that secondary character, and then they're going to continue that work in the following day's class. And let me see, there is a check for understanding. The students do a quick pair share and tell their partners something about the character they created in Writer's Journal 5.5. If students cannot summarize their characters, then they need to review their writing. And the teacher is ensuring that students have their characters in mind before going forward. So they need to have a good idea of their central character and their aspirations before they can create a secondary character that's going to have some type of implication on that character's aspirations. So the teacher is going to explain the directions for Writer's Journal 10.3. Basically, like I said, it's a planning page where they're planning out their secondary character. They fill in the table with the character's name from their aspiration story in lesson 5, and then the new characters that he or she will meet. And there are some prompts, some things for them to think about. After, let me see, are there any more pages? No. Okay, so after they have planned out these characters on Writer's Journal 10.3, the teacher is going to conclude the lesson by having students turn in their writer's journals or take them home to write their stories for homework and congratulate them on beginning the next chapter of their story. Then after class, the teacher is going to review Writer's Journal 10.1, making sure that students have correctly identified dialogue in both parts of the activity and planning for some type of remediation if they haven't. On 10.2, the teacher is going to read student answers and determine if their inferences are thoughtful and supported with evidence. And on 10.3, which is this one, the teacher is going to be providing supportive feedback that reinforces students' creative ideas while encouraging them to dig deeper. It says to try to provide a how or why question prompt to challenge them to dig deeper into the character and his or her impact. And if aspiration is not addressed in this scene, reminding students that this is an important idea. And that concludes lesson 10. All right. So we hope that was helpful, a nice bite sized chunk of lesson 10. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Right. See you on the next video.